Hello, everybody.
Hello.
All right, so we're doing this again. Not our usual thing, but we're doing our live streams during the high holidays. The next one coming up is Sukkot, which we'll maybe talk about towards the end of the stream. Maybe just give a little bit of a explanation there.
Indeed.
But okay, so we have some guests with us today. Hopefully, I know one of them's having a little bit of technical troubles, so let's see if he comes through. And actually, it's one of our guests is actually his birthday, so we're going to start off with that. But let me introduce both of them, and then we'll kind of see who's here, and then we'll go into that, and we'll move on from there. So,
indeed. Let's begin.
All right. First, we have the Jinja Ninja is here.
Hello, konnichiwa.
Nice to have you back.
Hey, nice to see you again.
Indeed. How have you been, Jinja-san?
Been pretty good. Yeah, it's I'm keeping busy with work, getting ready for the Comic Cons coming up, and all is good in the land of the rising sun.
Good. All right, and our second guest, who is let me see. I think it's fixed. Okay, good. So I'm gonna bring him in. Hopefully it's working. We have the man of the hour, Little Platoon.
Good evening.
Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for
being
coming
here.
Yeah, it's our first time actually getting a chance to speak with you. So, I mean, we've interacted, I think, once or twice on Twitter, but I don't think that's the same thing.
Yeah, does that count?
Not really.
It sort of semi-half counts, doesn't it?
Better than nothing at all, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends, I would say, more than anything else. But, Twitter's a weird place. Anyways, let's see who is here, and then we'll go into what we're going to do. We're going to do the little birthday thing. It's not that long. It's like a minute. And then we'll kind of jump in from there. As I said, we have some topics prepared if we need to, but we'll kind of see what comes up. It just kind of is a, kind of train thing. We kind of just, if it sometimes goes off on a tangent or whatever, we just kind of follow that where it goes. So let's see who's here. We have Grifter says, let's go. We have Emotionally Unstable Amphibians here.
Hello.
Primark 117 is here.
Honey, it's pronounced Primark.
Primark. Okay, sorry. I'm not good at pronouncing this stuff.
It's Warhammer.
I'm not good with this stuff. You're better at it than I am.
What, just because I know Warhammer?
Yes, I think that would give you definitely an advantage over me.
Ave Dominus Nox.
Advantage.
Don't make me bad key to you yet. I have to finish this. Behave.
No.
Ash H is here. We have 33 Legion B is here. I see it says something else, but we'll go with that. Frankenstein's here.
Hey, Frankenstein.
The Great One is here. Great.
Hello, you made it.
Yeah, he said he was going to earlier. So, Kocho Dragon is here. Who else? We have Mark Taylor is here. Johnny Ortiz is here. Hello, Master TS. Heard you like Back to the Future. Have you seen the ripoff movie called Time Chasers? I think I have. I cannot remember. I believe it was a long time ago. I barely remember it. Probably wasn't that good then, but that's just...
Well, if it's a ripoff, then it won't be the original Back to the Future.
I definitely not. John A. Douglas is here. This is Hail Gothic Therapy. Okay, I think you meant therapy. It's all right. We're good.
Bad kitty for bad spelling.
No, that's reserved for you. Nico Tomahawk is here. Wookiee Fever Presents is here. Great One says, yes, I only missed the last two. Well, that's what we have it up on the channel for. All right, I think we've caught up. I know more people will come in. We like to kind of try and keep on top of everybody who comes in, but probably not going to be that possible. We actually have Cannoli Sasquatch is here.
Hello.
Okay, good. All right. And one more, we have actually Andrew is here as well. All right, good. So let's jump into the little birthday thing. So I found out a couple hours before our stream that it was actually the little Platoon's birthday when I saw him post on Twitter. So, of course, I know you were with Mr. Brown, great channel. He actually is one of the reasons. He's basically one of the main reasons that I actually came back to YouTube after 6 years of hiatus.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a long story, which if you're curious about, we can go into, but we'll see. But he was the first live stream I did in like 6 years, so owe him a lot for that. But I know you were just on with him reviewing Ahsoka, and what you didn't tell us was that there's a deleted scene. You didn't tell us that you were in Ahsoka.
If I was, then I must have been blackout drunk because I don't remember it. But maybe I was. Where was I in Ahsoka?
Well, I
need just show him.
Well, I had a source who sent me this confidential deleted scene. That's totally what it is, and it's not anything else. And so, of an epic battle between you and Ahsoka. So let's see what that's all about.
It's over!
Platoon.
I have the high ground!
You underestimate my power!
Don't try it! High ground! You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them! High ground!
I hate you!
You were my brother!
Platoon.
I loved you! High ground! Ah! Whoops, I could have grabbed that there. High ground.
Wait, are you f***ing robbing me?
Once a year we celebrate with stupid hats and plastic plates. The fact that you were able to make another trip around the sun. And the whole clan gathers round and gifts and laughter do abound. And we let out a joyful sound and sing that stupid song. Happy birthday, now you're 1 year older.
There you go.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I remember that fight very well.
Yeah. So it didn't tell us. So, well, we have.
And also, that song at the end is the only birthday song I ever acknowledge and sing to people. So,
yes.
it's quite fitting.
So who had the higher ground?
I sang it to my grandfather at his 70th birthday, and he laughed. His 80th is coming. His 80th is coming up, and I might sing it again.
Just be glad we didn't get the entire song, because it's a lot more. It doesn't pull any punches. Let's just say.
Nope.
So.
Thank you, arrogant worms.
All right, so that was just a little thing I threw together. Didn't take very long, but just wanted to throw it together because I thought it was again, we didn't know it was your birthday, so I just wanted to acknowledge that.
That's very kind of you. To be honest, I didn't either until I woke up this morning and got a bunch of text that reminded me that yes, today is in fact the day I thought it was. Time has ceased to have much meaning to me at the moment. The life of being a streamer. So but that's very kind of you. Thank you.
How many years has it been?
It has been several years. I'm going by Ahsoka timescales here, so like it's about as specific as I'll get. Several years. The internet knows I was born in the 90s, and that's about as specific as it gets.
Ah, so are we. Hooray.
Are we going by like Dave Filoni time, where it's like, oh, this amount of time happened, but we change it whenever we feel like it?
Yeah. Ask me again when the next season airs, and it could be something completely different. It's been a 3-year time skip or something.
Ugh.
All right. I'm going to post actually that video because I had it already ready to go. So I'm going to post it on Twitter because so anybody who's not on the stream, they can see it and laugh, I guess. I don't know.
I'm so glad I'm not watching that show.
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
glad.
same here.
My dad's watching it. And again, I think my dad had probably the best reaction to a best response to what Ahsoka is. And I can't stop saying it over and over to anybody who lets me because I think it's just so perfect. He's like a normie. I watched the original trilogy with him when I was like a little kid. You know, I'll always have those memories. But he's not super into all the lore and all the intricacies and whatever. So like he watched Obi-Wan, he thought it was cool because he wanted to see, you know, people using laser swords. So he saw people using laser swords. So, but one of the things he mentioned when he watched some of Ahsoka, and he's not watching it anymore because he thought it was boring. He mentioned his reaction was, he said it's a Star Wars-like show set in a Star Wars-like universe.
He's not wrong.
No.
Well, I think that's the best way to describe it. So
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
haven't watched. Yeah,
yeah, I think
I haven't
the only
watched
one
any of
here-
the series, but they don't look Star Wars. They look like something else. Like a, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It's off. Something just seems
Yeah.
off.
I think the little Platoon is the only one here who's watched Ahsoka.
Yeah, for my sins. But I'd refer to it as it's more it's War of Star as opposed to Star Wars. I think.
With hardly
Or-
any
or-
war in it.
Or Disney space conflicts, as the great one here says.
Because there's hardly any actual war.
And Karshishiro's here. And
Hello.
we have a happy birthday to you. We have a lot of birthday messages for you in the chat if you want to see them there. We're not going to go through them all because we do want to get to some topics. We don't usually go for super long, but we'll see. Okay, so let's jump into something. I wanted to bring this up because not a lot of people are covering this. I found this morning, and I'm curious to see. I guess I'm curious to hear both your guys' reactions to this. But first off, are any of you familiar with the name Dan Slott?
Yes,
No.
the comic creator.
Dan Slott is notorious on Twitter because he's like currently writing Spider-Man, and he's got the whole Spider Boy thing going on and whatever.
You forgot to put air quotes around writing.
Whatever, you know what I mean. He is notorious for if you follow certain people that he doesn't like, it doesn't matter if you've never interacted with him or you've never spoken with him or you've never even like acknowledged his existence. He has like a blockchain.
Yeah.
And so if you follow, for example, like if you follow Yellow Flash or whatever, someone like that, it immediately just blocks you. That's how petty he is because he's he doesn't really take criticism well. But he decided, I guess he might have seen some of the backlash to stuff going on, and he decided a couple days ago to come out with like a 6-part thread on basically why legacy heroes cannot be ruined, that they're not possible to be ruined. And I'm curious, we're going to kind of go into that, just take a look at that. I'm curious what your guys' take is on that. Again, I actually agree with him on some points, but given who he is and he's the one making those points, he's not exactly the person that I would go to for this kind of information, but we're going to go into it. Here we go. Let's have this. So this is Dan Slott. I'm going to, I guess mind if I read it, honey? Or
Yes, and feel free to use any voice you wish.
do I have to? Okay, let me think. I got to think of a good voice for Dan.
Master does very cool voice impressions.
I can't do one for Dan. I'd keep changing it.
Do the SJW one!
I don't want to do that. It doesn't fit him.
Then do cranky old man. Or soy man.
You want to strain my voice when I'm trying to get over. I still have a cough. I'm trying to get over that. So let me just read it the way it is, and we can laugh at him for it.
Fine.
So Dan basically posted and said that it's impossible to ruin/destroy a long-standing legacy character. If an iconic character has been around for 50 plus years, they're indestructible. Whatever current aspect/storyline displeases you as a fan can be hand-waved away down the road. The character you love will be fine. And then he says, but what if I don't want to wait that long? If a legacy character has been around for 50 plus years, chances are good that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of stories about them in various media you haven't read, seen, experienced yet. More than enough to tide you over. And then he, again, has a bunch of different responses. That's why he's going here. So, but the current storyline hurts and disrespects the character. I'm defending them. He says, for a character to stay vital/fresh, especially one that's been around for 50 plus years, storytellers have to take risks and try things that haven't been done with that character before. Now, there's just a little bit more here. Let me switch to that one. There we go. He says, and whatever happens, whatever ways those stories deviate from the norm will inevitably upset a number of the hardcore fans. Conversely, they could also excite other parts of the fan base and catch the attention of new fans. These deviations are necessary time to time. Without these wild swings and stories that take big risks, there'd be the danger of the property growing stale and predictable. And again, for a character to have survived so long, there's the knowledge a reboot, reinvention, or handwave could put all the toys back in the box. Despite any histrionics, there's always the knowledge that the fan base that existed before you felt the same way over a previous story or status quo. And guess what? That character we all know and love is still here and still thriving. They're going to be okay. And then he said, also, if you think a storyline has broken your favorite character for all time, and you can't come up with an idea for a story that had fixed that, then your fan powers are lacking, because I guarantee you there are hundreds, if not thousands, of fans who can come up with a fix.
Okay, so Luke Skywalker is dead.
Yeah, that's my first point right there. I was going to say as well, he's dead. He's gone.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
Yeah.
And I do agree with some of what he says, at least in regards to, changing things up to attract a new audience. I get the necessity of that to some degree.
Can we go back to his? Okay, so I'm just trying to get clear on the fact he's talking about legacy characters, correct?
Yes.
Apparently.
Now, a legacy character is a character whose their persona has been passed on to another character that comes after them, right? Is that
more like a character that's been around for years?
Well,
right,
that is a
right.
good question, actually.
Yeah,
What
because
does what does define a legacy character?
Okay, because I'm just looking it up because I want to get my terms down. It says a character whose identity is passed down to them from an older character in the form of a title, job, or persona, for the newer character to assume. So, in that sense, would Luke Skywalker fit into this definition or not?
I think there might be a difference between the colloquial use of the term and the strict
Okay.
definition. I think
Okay.
colloquially, at least as I understand the term, legacy
Right.
character is usually used to refer to a long-standing character
That's
who makes
that's what I thought
an
as well.
appearance later on. I think you're probably
Okay.
right on the strict definition in
Right,
that a legacy
right.
character is a character who leaves a legacy.
Right.
But I believe what will be being referred to here is more
Mhm.
the sort of the long-standing character.
Okay, yeah, that's just what I wanted to make sure on because the first example that came to mind is Luke Skywalker is ruined forever. And it also depends on what kind of character you're talking about here. One that it's appeared several times, or like Luke Skywalker, who's only been in a few, well, let's just say movies. He's been in many books, but as far as movies are concerned, he was only in like 3, right? So it's the character's been around for a long time, but you were able to destroy it with one movie. That's all you needed. But there are other characters like Batman and stuff that, yeah, they've been around with hundreds and hundreds of comics. Sure, one of them might do some kind of defeating blow to them that they might be able to jump back from that. But in the case of Luke Skywalker, there was a very limited history of his appearances in like Star Wars, and then just by doing it one time, that's all you needed. And there's no comeback for him at all, but in my opinion. But I don't know how you guys feel about that.
No one's ever truly gone.
True.
Yeah. That I know the Critical Drinker put out a video on people not staying dead, and I think that's important too. But again, I think
when I kill off characters, which is actually quite rare, they stay dead for the most part. If it drives a plot point, that character who dies is going to stay dead, and there is no bringing them back. I've had it for 2 characters so far, maybe 3.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing about bringing back Palpatine as well. It destroys the whole purpose of the OT. The original. What's the purpose of them fighting and doing all those sacrifices? It amounts to nothing now. So not only have you destroyed one character, but you also destroyed the legacy.
Yes, exactly. Destroyed the legacy because praise of Palpatine.
Yeah, which is why I will never watch those movies. Well, that movie.
I've seen The Last Jedi, and that was the last Star Wars movie that I watched. I didn't go see The Rise of Skywalker because I didn't have any interest after seeing Luke toss his lightsaber over his shoulder like he didn't even care about it.
I told my brother not to go see the Rise of Skywalker. He didn't believe me when I told him it was bad. And then he came out of the theater and told me I was right.
You're missing out after a fashion because The Rise of Skywalker is one of the most hilarious films that you can ever see. None of it's intentional, but to understand just how low Hollywood can go, but also
so
to understand like, the
lacked
internecine struggles between the directors and the amount of direct responses JJ makes to Rian Johnson. So Luke chucks his lightsaber in The Last Jedi, and in The Rise of Skywalker, Rey chucks the lightsaber, and his Force Ghost inexplicably manages to pick it up and says a Jedi's weapon deserves more respect. Coda, fuck you, Ryan. That's
Exactly.
very funny. If you want to watch a good Star Wars film, avoid it like the plague. But if you want to see unintentional comedic genius, The Rise of Skywalker is pretty good.
So it's, in other words, it's laughably bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hilariously laughably bad. I will still occasionally rewatch The Rise of Skywalker just as an excuse to make jokes about it. There's always something new.
I just can't do it. I can't. Something like, for example, and this is a thing that gets brought up a lot of times, was that, and actually, I want to address this one comment because that's why Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Side Dimensions was brilliant, because Yugi made it clear that he wasn't bringing a 10 back against Kaiba's Desire. So, funny thing is that my name, Master of the TDS, comes from a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. That's what I used to do on YouTube. I've actually never seen the Dark Side of Dimensions. I really wanted to at the time, but it never happened. That's what light doxing will do to get you to, when you're younger and don't have anybody, no circle of people to rally to your defense. That's what will happen, is you kind of just throw in the towel, so to speak. And that's what I did for a while.
Was Dark Side of Dimensions the one where there are 3 generations of Yu-Gi-Oh! Fighting against a future generation?
No, that was Bonds Between Time, I think. But this one was they brought back the Pharaoh. It takes place right after the Yu-Gi-Oh! Thing. Long story short, I just wanted to address it quickly because I've never seen it. I don't know if it's worth seeing. I just can't bring myself to look at those things. But back on what we're saying is that, and that comment made a good point, is that one of the things that I don't like, though, is that Dan here is like referring to legacy characters. And as we said, legacy characters have multiple definitions. It's not necessarily it could be a title passed down. And I think that's the problem, I think, with current Marvel comics, is because we have so many characters that aren't legacy characters, that are being elevated to legacy characters because they are being given a title that was already a legacy. So taking, for example, Ms. Marvel and giving it to whatever, or taking Captain America and giving it to somebody else. Like, again, having someone play the role for a limited time when the character was dead, or to honor the character or whatever, that totally makes sense, and that can be really, really good.
Yeah, like X-23 taking up the mantle of Wolverine while he was dead. That was great.
Or Jane Foster taking up the mantle of Thor, even though Thor is someone's first name and not actually a title to be passed down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's a way that could have been done. That's the thing that bothers me, is that could have been done in a way that worked. But you could tell what the kind of narrative was behind it, because literally what they did was, there was even one thing, I think I posted it on Twitter a while back, and it got a lot of attention, was like, there was one panel from her comic where a female villain just doesn't fight her and says, I'm going to lay down my weapons because you're doing a great thing here. And it's hard to be a woman and fight whatever. And I'm just like,
oh yeah, that.
This is not superhero comics. Sorry, that's not what would happen. If there was a female villain, they wouldn't go, I'm giving you a pass because girl power. Take me to prison. What? That will never happen. And that's the problem, is that these characters are being given these titles that don't make any sense. And then you're like expected, well, there's plenty of Spider-Men. There's plenty of this. So their legacy, it's like, no, just because somebody took a title doesn't make them a legacy character.
That was one of my main problems with the latest, what was it? Across the Spider-Verse?
Oh yeah,
the new Spider-Man. Yeah. I hated that movie so much. There was just identity of Spider-Man was just so thinned out, and it was made like the original Spider-Man felt like he was just, not necessary at all. It was just something that somebody just happened to be there. It took away his legacy as well. I just don't like that whole introducing the multiverse with a billion different variations of a character to the point where you're the original one that you always followed is meaningless now.
Yeah, I mean that's always going to be the problem. So if we're sticking with this particular definition of the legacy character, the one which is just essentially the title to be handed down, the multiverse really works against that simply because the law of diminishing returns is pretty much universal. The more of them there are, the less impactful any individual tends to be. And the better the stories, that you can have brilliant stories in one instance, but then you can always hand wave it away by saying, yes, but I've got another one for you. And if you don't like that, I've got another one for you. And if you don't like that, I've got another one for you. Infinite numbers of these people. And then at that point you start to think, well, do I really care about any single one of them? So in a multiverse in particular, the actions someone like Peter Parker takes in saving a town, a village, a city, a world even, become almost inconsequential because the stakes have been blown up to such a high degree that it really means nothing in the grander scheme of things. Yeah, sure, in the immediate sense, he did a good thing, fine, but how is that going to actually stack up against the stakes of the multiverse? It's the same like Ant-Man and the Ant-Man Quantumania, for example, has this problem, or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness has this problem. Everything that happens before them is reduced by extension of the fact that you are blowing up the size of the multiverse. So what's the point of the Avengers saving one world when there are infinite numbers of worlds that they haven't saved or could save or somebody else could save them? What do I invest in that situation?
Yep, it's just watered down. And you don't really, you lose interest in it and you don't care anymore. It's
honestly, there was an Illuminati Marvel story arc, I remember, where they had to, there was an ethical question brought up about the worlds colliding with each other. And them having to having to come to terms with destroying another world in order to save their own. Like the responsibility that they would have to take for the destruction of another universe. I thought that was interesting.
It was played out at that point. The problem was that, see, for example, here's a best example I think we can take from what you were saying, honey, is that they destroyed the Ultimate Universe. They literally collapsed it into whatever. And now, what are they doing in the comics now? They're bringing it back again. So it's like, okay, so now you're telling me that there's this world-ending calamity that could, make all these ethical questions and all this kind of stuff that might actually make for some decent storylines, maybe in the right hands. But then it matters not because we'll just bring the world back when we feel like it.
Please, just put it in my hands. I will save it all.
Thanks for coming, Frankenstein.
Well, this is
you have a good night.
This is a point that I bring up with a lot of entertainment characters, comics, and so forth, and equating it to like Japanese manga, for example. And I'm not a big avid manga reader at all, but for the most part, there is like a limited edition. Like you're going to get this many, and then the story's finished. It's over forever. And that's all you're left with. Whereas with a lot of these legacy characters, what Mr. Slott is referring to right here, you have to keep the story going and going and going and going, and you have to like almost jump the shark in order to keep people's interest in it, or do something that's completely crazy to try to keep people's eyes on what you're doing, even if it is negative. And in a sense, I almost want to say, like, is having a legacy character who lasts this long, is it a good thing? Should the story, is it better for it to be limited? Personally, I think so, but that's just my opinion.
I mean, I completely agree, and I think that bridges the gap between the definitions as well, because the same thing is true of the other definition of legacy character, which is essentially the long-running character, which I think is the type he's referring to here. If you have a character whose story has come to a natural end, and the only way you can continue that is by effectively breaking the character, i.e. making that character do something out of character, or putting it, going to such extreme degrees to try and make him new and interesting and relevant to the extent that actually he bears no resemblance to his former self. Well, in that situation, you can look at that and say, well, maybe it's actually better that he's done now. Maybe we don't need to have Luke Skywalker in 2020. Maybe we don't need to have Captain America's mantle being passed down year after year, decade after decade. Sometimes, actually, it's quite good to end stories. And the end, well, traditionally in like traditional literature writing, the end is probably the most important, if not secondarily important to the beginning. But the beginning and the end are really the most important points. But you have to have an end in order for the story to wrap up, in order for the message to be paid off, in order for the thing to have any meaning at all. And the longer you spin it out, the less the effect of the overall work is going to be. I don't think anyone would really look at, say, I don't know, The Picture of Dorian Gray, for example, a great work of Western literature, and say, you know what that really needs? A sequel. And then another one, and another one as well. And also, maybe
I'm
there's
kind of
9
happy.
films out of this.
I am kind of happy that Dracula ended up with so many sequels, because the ending of Stoker's original novel really pissed me off. Did nobody read how the original book ends? He goes out like the whole point. When before they were talking about how smart.
Honey, your bike doesn't pick up the higher sounds.
Before, okay, so it bugs me. I have read the full, complete, and unabridged cover-to-cover copy that I got from my grandma, printed in 1965. And oh my god, it just pisses me off so much because for a full chapter, Dr. Van Helsing is talking about how powerful he is, how cunning he is, how intelligent Dracula is, and then when it comes time for the story to end, all of a sudden they're talking about how he's acting like a child and they take him out like a wimp. I have a very strong theory that either the government or the church made him change the original ending in order for it to be published.
That's always possible. I guess we'll never know.
Honey, the way the ending is written does not sound like the rest of the book.
I agree with you, honey. Remember, I read it too, and I thought it was stupid.
Is there an audiobook for that?
There should be, yeah.
And if so, is Keanu Reeves the one who reads through it?
You mean the real life vampire Keanu Reeves, or is that Tom Cruise?
No, Keanu Reeves. I'm referring to the movie. Like Keanu Reeves is horribly cast.
Yes,
it's a very complicated joke there.
Well, I haven't seen enough Dracula movies, so I wouldn't know. Though I have finally watched the original Bela Lugosi film. They took quite a few liberties from the books. When it was mainly that they sent Renfield to the castle at the beginning instead of Jonathan Harker. But
did you happen to see the Renfield movie with Nicolas?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Yeah, that one was great.
Oh, it was actually really good. Dracula.
Oh, okay,
Nicolas
cool.
Cage's Dracula really surprised me in a good
check
way.
that out then.
Yeah, that was. I was worried about that one because Nicolas Cage is good at certain roles, especially being like crazy. But like Dracula is not always crazy. He's supposed to have be crazy but refined, kind of like being able to do a line between both. And I was worried that Nicolas Cage would not be able to pull it off. He pulled it off. He did a really good job.
Pull it off.
I was super impressed.
But I also really liked in the Renfield movie how they recreated scenes from the 1932 Dracula movie.
Yeah, in black and white. They had black and white things where they had...
they literally replayed Renfield meeting Dracula in his castle with Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult. It was really well done. Watch it. The only bad part is Awkwafina, but at least in this movie, she's not overly obnoxious.
Does she rap?
No, thank God.
Thank God. So I created an abomination that was worse than that. I took the scuttlebutt and I combined it with She-Hulk twerking and made it that it was so I called it the Scuttle Twerk, and it's somewhere on Twitter and it's awful. It's nightmare fuel.
Please do not go looking for it, darling.
No, that's not what I'm doing.
Good.
Yeah, I think what Dan Slott. Well, I'm not sure if you guys are all aware of why he's putting this tweet up, but it's all about what he's doing with Spider-Man right now.
Exactly. I was about to say that.
Trying to justify his lame storyline that has enraged tons of fans. And,
the Spider-Boy?
No. Well, from what I'm heard, I think it's he did the Spider-Boy.
He's doing the Spider-Boy. But he's also doing. I don't know if he's doing this, but I was going to actually bring this up, and I wanted to, kind of use what Little Platoon said, like a springboard kind of, because he was mentioning how, you know, if you have to reboot something, whatever, to make a character like completely go out of character to keep it interesting, then it should have just ended. For example, the best example I can think of right now is Spider-Man. They literally have him right now. He is been infected with Norman Osborn's sin energy, and he's now the Green Goblin. So we now have Green Goblin inside Spider-Man, and Norman Osborn is the only one who can save the day. It's like, why do I want to read this? This is not Spider-Man at that point.
So I guess maybe the qualifying question then is because I know nothing about this, is the Spider-Man we're talking about Peter Parker, or is this It is. Okay.
It's Peter Parker. He was impaled by the Goblin Queen came and impaled him with Osborn's disembodied sin because he's reformed, and it missed Osborn and hit Peter, and now Peter is the Green Goblin. Like they did with Superior Spider-Man when they had Doc Ock take control of his brain. Now it's the Goblin doing pretty much the same thing. So it's now evil Peter, and he's in the black suit, and he's hunting Craven, and like it's just like
Jinja-san, I see your face.
Yeah, I'm like,
you just went so deadpan.
I'm just like, all I'm thinking about are the great Spider-Man stories I grew up with, and just like, like right now, you mentioned Craven. Like one of my favorite ones is Craven's Last Hunt. It's just an amazing story, an amazing book, and I'm just like, Craven's back? Nah, not in my mind.
Speaking of, what did you think of that trailer they showed?
No, it's over the top. You don't need to go that far. The character in itself, if you really dive into the psychology of the character, you don't need all that gore and what is it? I'm missing the word here, but you don't need all the blood and everything to
Actually,
capture.
There wasn't enough blood when he gets attacked by that lion. There's hardly any blood. He shouldn't be eviscerated, lacerated, and bleeding to death.
Yeah. I thought it was also silly. Like, well, I don't know how it's going to work. I haven't seen the movie, but it almost looked like I was getting vibes of like, what's that movie that came out from? What was it? Was it Denmark, or where was it? Where the guy took on the Nazis? It was a really violent movie. Yes.
Was it Susu?
Yeah, I was getting like some Sosu vibes from it because that was very popular, and I was like, "Oh, this looks very, really like over the top." I don't know. It could be good, but it just seems, I don't know. Look into the source material; you'll find some really good nuggets of good story there, and just go with that. And I don't know. I'm not really interested in it, but I could be proven wrong. It just looked a little over the top, and the fact that he got like the lion's power from the blood dripping into him.
Yeah,
I was like,
it reminded me of She-Hulk.
Yeah. There you go.
That was my main concern, was how there wasn't enough blood in that scene. My second was who's the black girl? That was literally the only other thing I took away from it.
Yeah,
I don't even remember the trailer anymore.
Yeah, I saw it once. Just went, we'll see.
It's Craven time. That's all I got to say.
My idea of a Craven movie would be so much like, it's so bright and everything too. Like, let's make it dark. Let's make it a hunter in the night and things like that. I don't know. It just kind of goes against what my idea of him would be. But that's just my opinion. Yeah.
Well, opinions are valued here.
Oh, thank you.
That's partly a function of the rating system as well. In that one of the great, I think, pressures that are making comic book movies particularly anodyne at the moment is this pressure to have them as universally appreciable as possible. And that almost always entails striving for a rating certainly below R, ideally PG. And that means that you can take an incredibly sort of dark, gritty, bloody backstory in the comics, I don't know, Blade, Craven, whatever you like. But if you're trying to make money off of this thing in the cinema, or the most money possible with the least effort possible, what you really have to do as the studio is to make it this anodyne kind of generic mush. And I think it eventually comes back to bite, because every superhero film now looks the same and has the same tone and has the same grittiness or lack of grittiness. So these things become indistinguishable from each other. And I think that's one of the reasons there is this fatigue that builds up for that type of media. Whereas if you do go to the comics, I'm not a big comics fan by any means, but as I understand it, the comics origins for a lot of these stories and the storylines they go through are much darker, much more bloody, much more visceral. And you can get away with that in comics because you're really appealing to a dedicated hardcore audience, as opposed to trying to strive, at least for this mass general audience that most film companies now seem to want to get for themselves. It's bad because it means much less interesting films. I'd much rather they took more risks with superheroes, given comics have shown that risks can bear rewards. But we're not going to get that because risk aversion is the dominant philosophy in Hollywood these days, and it's kind of depressing.
They're such wimps.
The thing that you're that's a great point that you're making right there, the little Platoon. And what I'm worried about with Craven, when you say the word Craven, I immediately associate with a Spider-Man. So they're taking this Craven movie and it's over the top, bloody gore, tons of violence, probably going to be rated R. You can't put Spider-Man in a film like that and try to sell it. You can't do that. So what are they going to have to do when they try to make like a sequel or something and involve Spider-Man with that? Well, they would definitely have to tone it down, 1,000%. So I almost think that this could be, and this was my initial reaction to it. This is like they're bringing us in with this really over the top crazy movie, but then whenever we go to see the sequel, it's going to be a real big letdown because it's going to be tamed. That's another thing I'm kind of like got worries about with this, because you can't put Spider-Man. You can't put Spider-Man in a movie that's going to be rated R and expect to, people are going to be taking their kids there and everything, and it's just yeah. So I don't know.
It's a shame that we've gotten to this point, kind of that, again, I think that there's always ways that you could continue a story that doesn't involve having to do, like, turn the character on its head. Sometimes if it's with the right writer and the right story, you can actually do that in a way that works. But I don't think we have any of those anymore.
I can.
Also, you have to earn it as well. So you can have characters pivot to almost the complete opposite of their usual characterization if you've earned that switch. If you've driven a character to the point of near insanity, for example, over the course of an entire story, then you can explain irrational actions or actions which go contrary to their depiction in the first instance we've seen them. What you can't do is just to put them on screen or put them in a comic book with no build-up at all and say, he is now the opposite of the person you remember. Buy it. Because
exactly.
Everyone's cultural memories, everyone's memories of characters are formed over the long run. We invest in continuous stories. We don't simply say, well, the guy has the same name, so I'm interested, and I don't care what they do with him, I'm always going to buy it. Unless you're a Disney Star Wars fan, in which case that's fine. But if you're not, then you actually need to earn these changes. And that's sort of, so if we're going back to the other definition, the colloquial definition of legacy character, the long-running character, someone like Luke Skywalker, you can earn your way to Luke being incredibly miserable and depressed and suicidal if you really, really put the work in. I don't think you should do that, but you can make it work. The problem with the sequel trilogy is that it didn't do that. With someone like Spider-Man in the comics, I'm not sure how that works because, again, I'm not a big comics fan. Is there a big meta continuity with Peter Parker? My impression was always that Peter Parker has quite a few different personalities depending on which era you're reading, which author
you mean
reading.
Besides them constantly making him break up with Mary Jane?
Well, I mean, besides the set pieces, though, is he a consistent character even in his own self?
He should
I'm
be.
asking.
Should be, and for the most part, when you think of Peter Parker, there are certain qualities that you kind of put with him. Whether he's exemplifying those qualities now in the stuff, I can't tell you because I'm not reading the current stuff. I just keep up to date on kind of what's going on because I'm curious, morbid curiosity.
I could ask my dad. My dad's been more or less keeping up with the current stuff, and he says it's boring. And he says it's boring.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember last Passover? He gave you some comics to read, and you could not read any of them just because of which year they were printed in.
I was just looking through them. I'm like, oh, is there any good old? No. This is a new one. No, this is a new. Okay, boring.
Hey, at least he tried.
Yeah,
I've tried to read those comics though.
The live stream I do on Sunday, we've got a couple of guys who are really avid comic book fans, and apparently what's happening right now is they're completely tearing Peter Parker apart. They're they're completely destroying the character. They're trying their best to humiliate him and do everything that they can to just bring him down to his lowest low. And it's just like the fans are just sick of it. And this is what I think this tweet right here is kind of referring to, is that, hey, after this storyline's over, something else will come along, so just deal with it. No.
It's almost there's almost like this implicit almost threat, I suppose, in a tweet like this, which is that, look, you had the character to yourself in the way you liked him for these number of years. You had him for 50 years. You've had your day. Now it's time for me to do what I want with him, and our new audience will enjoy that. And you might not like it, but it's tough because you've had your day. And that's but I gather that's quite common in comics these days anyway. Part of the sort of the knock-on consequence of them, well, it's a cause and a consequence, because comics are really, really not performing monetarily anymore. They're not a big major investment proposition for a company anymore. They have effectively been turned over to the worst kind of effectively just political hacks who masquerade as writers in order to push whatever agendas they want to push, because they are confident that there's no loss making really there. There's no profit prospect there either. So because no one's reading them, we can do what we want with them. And the danger is that in maybe 10, 15 years' time, that's the state of affairs that films go into as well. Comics is actually ahead of movies in this respect. But they are a breeding ground. They're an experimental sort of test tube making facility at the moment for these very, very radical, very, very political, untalented non-writers to just effectively try and say, well, how can we bend this much-loved character to our current day fad? What can we do to bring Peter Parker down and elevate somebody else in his place who better fits our current day priorities? And in the long run, we'll see that transition into film, because Disney is very keen on bringing its current day comic storylines into the film industry as well. The reason you've got people like Riri Williams, as opposed to going back through the decades of comic book material you could be using, is that Disney owns it, Disney's in favor of it, and Disney wants to see that have a mass audience appeal. It will lose the money, and in the long run, it will take itself down, it will destroy itself. But in the meantime, an immense amount of cultural damage is done when you effectively turn an entire comics industry over to people who really don't like comics fans and don't like the history of the thing they're writing.
Correct.
Speaking of Riri Williams, though,
I've never understood why stories and IPs are given over to people who hate them. I don't get it. Why write something? Why be put in charge of something? Why take over something if you don't like what you're working on? I do not understand, and I never will.
Because they want the platform. They don't care about the property. They want the ability to use whatever existing platform. It's like, the good example is like, it's like what legacy characters are. They give them a name of someone else and say, look, this character is important now because they're the new Captain America, or they're the new Spider-Man, or they're the new this, and they don't have anything to work for. There's nothing there. So they give them the platform. They go, oh, well, this property I don't care about and I hate, but I can take this existing fan base, existing people, and I can just make whatever I want, and you'll all just go buy it. And that doesn't happen. And then they call us all a bunch of names, and cycle repeats itself.
Yeah, it's a shortcut for untalented people. It's a shortcut way into a major industry. These people can't actually build characters and worlds for themselves because they don't have the talent to do that. And that's evident in the produce they actually, create and shove in front of us and ask us to slurp up. They don't have the talent to create, but what they do have the talent is connections and the ability to take the helm. Once they've got the helm, they automatically have access to a huge audience that they have not themselves earned. This is the Rings of Power dynamic at play. No one involved in Rings of Power has an ounce of the talent of J.R. Tolkien. What they can do, though, is play off of his name and play off of his legacy, and automatically they are being put in front of a much bigger audience than they've actually earned or justified. And the result is, Rings of Power, which is, I think that speaks for itself, really.
Well, as a writer, it just bothers me. That's all. Because I go along when I write fan fiction, and I do have quite a few. I literally go out of my way to research the universe I'm writing about, so that whatever original character or take I want to write and put into the story actually fits in with the story.
Well, see,
I hate seeing them not do it. It bothers me, and it is physically painful.
The problem, Raven, there is that takes work and diligence and talent, which they lack all of those. They don't have the ability to create. It is so much easier to destroy than it is to create. it's so much easier to not give a crap about all those things that you just spoke about and just to make something and call that again, they're like parasites. They're standing on the shoulders of giants or whatever. Um, and they don't have that ability to do that. And
Yeah.
it's apparent in their work.
The first
They
instance that I
can't do it.
actually felt, the first instance that I really felt it with Hollywood was Omega in The Bad Batch.
I have not seen The Bad Batch.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
They introduced a female clone.
Okay.
See, my Star Wars fan fiction is about a female clone, but the way I wrote her actually makes sense. She's not supposed to exist because her growth pod glitched and changed her DNA sequence.
Mm.
She was disposed. The Kaminoans tried to dispose of her. 99 got her out and snuck her with a Black Ops unit, and so she's been literally hiding all of her life. Omega is right out in the open, and the Kaminoans just let her walk around without a care in the world. She literally is also wearing a tiara like some kind of princess.
Do
you see the difference do you see the difference there in my diligent research in order to strive to make it fit in with George Lucas's vision and with that crap?
The problem is they have no desire whatsoever to make it fit in. What they do,
I know, and that's what bothers me.
I think they're playing the long game here. I'm not kidding. They're doing things right now that will have repercussions 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line. Easily. The stories that we have that we pass on to the next generation. What are we passing on to our next generation? What kind of stories do we have for them from Western entertainment? I'm not talking about manga or anything.
Unfortunately, not good ones.
I mean, I literally can't think of anything off the top of my head right now that's something that I'm passing on to. And I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about this. The one show that I've been really enjoying that me, my wife, and my daughter have been watching together, we're actually going through our second watch of it, is the One Piece show on Netflix. It's great.
I'm a big fan of the anime.
Honey, you forget your mic's not catching your high tone.
Stupid mic. But yeah, I'm actually a fan of the anime, so getting to see it in live action, knowing that it's all Oda-sama approved, and how accurate it is, even with the creative liberties they've taken, I can't stop fangirling.
Yeah, it's sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, speaking of just some news just came down the pipeline that the writer's strike is over, but the actor strike is not, at least for now. It looks like SAG-AFTRA will meet with the studios on Monday for negotiation, which I think that they will.
And apparently they got what they wanted. Mandated writers in the writer's room. That does not need to be a thing. It's the too many cooks in the kitchen, as Yellow Flash likes to say. But with writers.
It's worse even than that, really.
Really, all that you need is one or two competent writers. That's all you need.
That's the problem. They don't have competent writers.
But also, you won't get competent writers. If, for example, this is always the way with. I want to come back to One Piece as well because I actually have some nice things to say about that. Surprisingly, it surprised me. The writer strike thing. It's always the way with any union negotiations which try to mandate A, union membership, and B, higher wages, is that it makes it almost impossible. It certainly makes it harder for newer, more talented people to actually get their start in the industry. You can agree, and I do agree, with some of the claims that have been made or some of the questions that have been asked by the Writers' Union, and one or two even of the Actors' Union. I think that the question of digital rights and AI representation matters. We do need a resolution on that. But the minute you start saying to a studio, you must have a minimum number of people in a writer's room at any given time, and they must be paid a minimum, i.e. higher, level of wage than they're currently earning, effectively what you're saying is, well, to the studio, you have a choice when you're hiring people in the future. You have to pay us a certain amount of money, a high amount of money, and you have to have a certain number of us. Do you either choose the long-established people you already know, whose track record isn't very good, but they are well-connected and they have works to their name, or do you take a risk and hire a load of new people who might be bad or they might be really good, but they will demand the same level of wage. They are younger, they have no record in the industry. Which do you do? If you're the studio, you automatically will go and defer back to those people you've already worked with, who've already done such amazing jobs on destroying properties that everybody loves, but at least they have a track record. That's what's very important to studios. Again, risk aversion comes into play. If you want to have a change in the way that Hollywood hires people, and so a change in the way that shows are written, films are written, this is a bad result. This is going to effectively entrench a class of established writers who've done terrible jobs and lock out a huge number of new people who might have better ideas because the studio isn't going to take the risk of hiring them because they have to pay them more money. It's not a good result.
And that's why I am so glad I am in Epicverse and not Hollywood.
Well, that's the other side, the positive side, which is that as Hollywood continues to stagnate, you will get a rise of more independent media and more focus put on independent media because independent media is not bound by the same strictures and restrictions that unions are currently demanding of Hollywood studios. So that's, in the long run, probably a good thing, but it will require the destruction of a lot of very nice and well-regarded studios in order for that to happen. I think in the ideal world, we wouldn't be really champing at the bit for Lucasfilm to disappear, for example, and yet that's the situation we now find ourselves in. So yeah, that's the strike 2 pence worth. Just very quickly though, on One Piece, I was very, very pleasantly surprised that there are many writing problems in One Piece. I think the episode 3-4 arc in particular, the one with the evil butler guy, when he's really trying to kill them and has every opportunity to kill them and doesn't kill them, is really annoying. However, I was really pleasantly surprised by the way they managed to, and bravely decided to try and integrate as much anime style into it as possible. They didn't do the usual thing of, well, it's live action, so it must be more serious. They said, no, we're actually going to lean into the anime origins. It's going to be cheerful, simple, optimistic, colorful, bright, vibrant, and all of that was actually really, really lovely to see. And so I sat there thinking, well, I might have written that differently, but I don't hate this. In fact, I'm kind of enjoying it. In fact, I'm really sad that there's only 10 episodes because really they needed a few more episodes in order to really get the point across. It would have been better if they'd had a longer run for season 1. But yeah, I was left warm feelings in my heart, to borrow a line from Yoda.
Yep.
I want to get to, we had a couple super chats, and I want to see also let the chat have a say in some of what we're going into. So let me get these super chats out of the way real quick because they've been a little bit. We have Looky Me Bad with a $50 super chat saying boot. Okay, fine. Here you have your clip. Let's go. Here is it. Where is it? I always miss this one.
You need to sort out the clips, darling.
I have them sorted. I just miss it because it's a weird one.
We'd like to pay now.
There. And we have one more from Legion B. Says, on legacy characters, people bash bringing back Darth Sidious in 5, but when you kill off 9, sorry. When you kill off Snoke and Kylo Ren is ineffectual against Rey, what do you got left? Nothing but fan service. Yes, but here's the thing. They didn't even have to make another one. They could have just left it alone.
They could have.
They could have.
But they couldn't because money.
Always bad form, though, to dispute sort of the hypothetical. So they had to do 3. They'd said, we're going to do a new trilogy, and so there has to be a 9. Accepting there has to be a 9, could you make a better wrap-up than The Rise of Skywalker? I think the answer has to be yes. You don't have to bring Sidious back. I don't think, absolutely right. Killing off Snoke was a terrible idea with no explanation, made it even worse. Kylo and Rey's relationship was terribly done. However, it doesn't mean you can't fix some of that stuff in episode 9 without resorting to bringing back Darth Sidious, which was just, somehow Palpatine returned. Oof.
I was about to say that.
Such a great line of dialogue.
What bothered me about that so much is that they tried to also, it's not just in the movie, but they try to explain it outside of the movie. Like, for example, first off,
Fortnite.
You find out Palpatine's back, his speech. Oh, by the way, if you don't play Fortnite, you have no clue what he's talking about. You didn't hear his speech.
That's a bad movie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but
if you can't give the story, and if you can't make it understood and appreciated in the movie, then it's a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, it's like, what bothered me the most was that and the original trilogy will always be really special to me because I watched it with my dad. My dad and I didn't get along on much, but when it came to that, we sat down and we watched it together. That was a thing. It was a bonding moment for me. So it's always going to have that special place in my heart. But when I saw Vader, choose to save his son and pick up Palpatine and throw him down the shaft, that was like the end. That was the perfect moment to it was the culmination of his entire arc.
Yep.
And then to find out later that no, when Palpatine is screaming, when you can hear him screaming and shooting lightning out of his fingers while he falls, which you can see him doing too, he was also force projecting himself to a clone on Exegol, and he was possessing that, and his body continued to scream and shoot lightning and fall down the shaft, and somehow that makes sense. And then they also did this whole thing where they found Luke's severed hand. Did you guys hear about this?
No.
They did this
Did
whole
that in a comic, I think.
They did this whole arc in a comic where Luke, he lost his hand. Vader chops off his hand. They find his lightsaber. That's how Rey has it. And they find his hand, and they put it in like a tank, and they're using it to clone things. And the implication is that Snoke is a clone made by Palpatine with the blood of Luke Skywalker. And it's just this whole big convoluted mess. And it's like, you could just not do this. Just don't do it. If you can't make it make sense within the realm of what's available and what's possible, then maybe it's telling you shouldn't do it. We don't need, guess what? Rey's father is a failed clone of Palpatine who wasn't force sensitive, who married a random woman and whatever, and so she's a Palpatine. But so if we're saying the clone had Luke Skywalker's DNA in it, then what we're saying is, Rey has some of Luke's hand blood flowing through her veins, so that makes her a Skywalker. It's like, oh yeah, because when people get a blood transfusion, that just magically makes them into whoever it is. It's a ridiculous, convoluted thing. And the funniest part, this always cracks me up, is Disney having to retcon their own comics. They literally made it. They did a comic where you see Emperor Palpatine, and he's
impregnating Shmi.
He's impregnating Shmi with the Force, right? But they had to retcon it. Why?
Because according to Reylos, that meant incest.
Well, no, that's what the problem was because
Reylos are so weird.
It would mean that Rey and Kylo were technically related. And so they had to retcon the comic, which was hilarious because it's you can't even keep your own continuity straight, and you want us to believe that you can do this stuff. No, here's the best example. This is an excuse to play this because I want to get. I don't know if Platoon has seen this, but I want to get his opinion because he's watched Ahsoka. There's that whole space battle scene with Ahsoka.
The space opera.
You're
doing a space opera, aren't you?
I made it into a space opera, and I'm curious if it makes it better. So I'm going to play it. I know we'll get copyright struck for it. I don't really care.
Who cares? We got super chats.
We'll get copyright struck for pretty much anything these days. But I'm going to play this, and I'm curious I'm curious what you have to say, Jinja, as well. But I'm curious what the little Platoon has to say because I wonder if I fixed it. I think I fixed it because it actually makes it funny. So let's see what you think.
Do it.
I think it made it better.
I think so. Yeah, definitely improves the scene, I think.
I like the music.
That's not how outer space works.
If I watch it with my eyes closed, it's really, really nice.
Carmen, one of the classics.
But it's funny because I was gonna make a point and I just totally
something about space
I
opera.
take the blame.
No, I totally forgot. But Strike Republic of This World Coming to. I got copyright. I got DMCA'd this morning on Twitter.
What's up, Roman? Sorry. Random one.
No, it's okay. I wanted to get to the chat as well. I wanted to see what people were saying. Let's see. 33 Legion B says, I think with Star Wars, though, you always got to have a main villain. Kylo Ren wasn't going to do it, especially not one in the movie. I call Kylo Ren anger management issues because that's literally what he is. All he does is go, I'm mad, ///.
Honey, you want to know why? Do you want to know why? It's because he's literally emo.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Emos give us goths a really bad reputation.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. I just remembered. The one scene, there is one scene out of, actually there's, well, I guess one of them, it actually is one scene because there's, the other one's not technically a scene in Disney Star Wars. It was in George Lucas Star Wars that was added. But the one scene in Star Wars that is perfect, that I use all the time, is that's not how the Force works.
Oh, yes. It's so useful.
That's it. That's the only scene that's relevant. It's like, oh, that space battle? That's not how the Force works.
Yeah.
That's not even how zero gravity works.
Also, I bypass the compressor is a really, really useful stand-in for any plot contrivance. This makes no sense. Well, I bypass the compressor. It's fine.
Or as Master says, I bypass the character development.
I've seen that meme. But actually, that reminds me of this. Let's see if I have that clip still. I do. This is funny.
I'm sure a writer's convenience will turn up and fill us in.
A writer's convenience? What's that?
But you know, if you can make it work, at least make it funny.
Yeah. Although on the substance of the previous chat, though, I think there might have been a way. I don't think Kylo Ren needed to be the big bad of that show. I think Rey should have been. Rey should have turned to the dark side, and I think is it Colin Trevorrow did the original script treatment? Well,
Duel of Fates.
After George Lucas's, Colin Trevorrow did a script treatment in which Rey does turn to the dark side. I think Finn becomes a Jedi. It was darker, generally more complex, and I think would have improved it immeasurably. If you have Rey learn that, whatever lessons she wants to take from The Last Jedi, fine. But have Rey turn to the dark side, have Kylo have to effectively switch on a dime. Like, you have these two people actually taking their own positions, and Rey becomes the big bad. That's much more compelling. And even to this day, the only reading of The Rise of Skywalker that actually makes sense is that Palpatine won in the end, and that he's actually inhabiting Rey. Because when he says, kill me and I will inhabit you, and then she kills him, and the film implies that hasn't happened, then she buries Luke's lightsaber in the desert. Well, that makes much more sense if you read that as actually that's Palpatine in her, burying the legacy of his greatest foe. And he's now going to reintroduce himself to the galaxy as a hero, and that's how he takes over again. That makes more sense than what we got. But yeah, having Rey as the villain as opposed to Kylo would have been infinitely better.
Yes, but see, that would have required competent and talented writers.
Wait, I want to say one thing. We actually have. I cannot wait for the next Rey movie because we're being told that she's going to take Padawans and whatever, right? And what I've been learned, right, is that if there's a Jedi Master and he goes away into exile, whatever, right, that this is what we have to expect, right? This is what we get to expect from the next movie, right? It's to expect an aged Rey drinking green milk, right? Isn't that what they told us is the case?
Well, by the time the film comes out, that is how Daisy Ridley will look. So it's believable.
To be quite honest, do you guys think we'll ever see another Star Wars movie?
Yes.
What's because they've been promised. I don't know. Like, look at all these, just what they're doing with the TV shows. Do they even need movies anymore? I don't even know. Like, what movie are they going to come up with next? They had like 1 billion that are on the list, but they're not going forward with any of these projects, to my understanding. Am I correct?
There are 3 currently, I think, that are still on the slate. No, 4 actually. So there is the one that's supposedly set way back at the origin of the Jedi.
Right.
There's the movie that wraps up all of the Filoni-verse, so the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and whatever else they've got going on. And then there is the Rey New Jedi Order film. Those are the three that are currently, I think, supposed to be definitely happening. And then there's Taika Waititi's film, which is apparently still in production.
He asked Natalie Portman to be a part of.
Which was funny. He's like, do you want to be part of Star Wars? She's had to explain to him why she's already been part of Star Wars.
I was kind of already in it. Yeah, I died of sad. Much like the audience with every Disney Star Wars film.
I just don't see how any of these movies are going to make any. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like they have the following or anything.
I'd agree with that. So of the three, I don't think we'll see all three of the ones that are supposedly the ones currently coming up. I think the one we might see is the Rey film. I don't think we'll see the Filoni film because the Filoni-verse, the Disney Star Wars shows, are not pulling in the numbers to justify spending hundreds of millions of dollars on wrapping up stories that nobody's actually watching. And I don't think we'll see the Origin of the Jedi Order one because nobody gives a shit. So of all of those three, the Rey one is actually the one with the best prospects, which is a weird statement, but nevertheless I think is true.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to mention they also recently, they were going to do the Lando show, and they recently said it's going to be a movie. I don't think we'll see it.
No.
But it is also planned. I do think what we'll see next for certain is the Acolyte, which is, I already have a meme ready for that one. I've been using it. I've been using it already, but I have a meme that I've just been saving for it. That is one of my favorites that I have. But maybe I'll show it in a little bit. But
is the Acolyte? Is that a movie or a TV show?
TV show.
It's
going
to be by Harvey
Leslie
Weinstein.
Headland.
Yes,
Leslie
Harvey
Headland.
Weinstein's bag carrier, essentially.
His
The
old
most feminist
assistant,
of all
right?
the Star Wars films is helmed by the person who carried the coffee for Harvey Weinstein. Really good stuff. Well done,
What's your
Disney.
favorite Star Wars movie? All of them. Sure.
It's like Brie Larson saying, "What's your favorite video game?" Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all hacked. They're fake. All this is fake. I can't bring myself to watch anything. Like even clips, these clips that you show me, that's the most I've seen of anything since the third episode of The Mandalorian. I haven't seen anything since then. Just won't.
I can't watch any Star Wars.
Season 1 of Mandalorian was good. I enjoyed it. I also really want to finish the Clone Wars, mostly because I really enjoyed the Clone Wars.
I can't do it.
The fact that they are pushing Ahsoka so much makes me really, really not want to.
It just
wait, but wait, but here's the excuse we're going to get for the Acolyte. I'm afraid my pronouns will be quite operational when your critics arrive.
Tells you my darling can do good voices.
No, it wasn't that good. But I look, the thing for me, I can't even watch the current Star Wars stuff now. Like I even you were mentioning a little Platoon that you watch The Rise of Skywalker for fun. Like I can't even think of that as fun to me. Like I get it. I'm sure it has like some like I'm sure there's stuff to laugh about, but like I can't even do it. It's when apathy sets in. It's the same thing for me and my favorite TV show, which is completely been destroyed, which was Doctor Who. They've ruined that. It's ruined. They're bringing back my favorite Doctor, David Tennant. They're bringing him back for 3 episodes. And I was like watching the trailer and I'm like, okay. I can't even muster enough. So like people have been trying to get me. There's a running joke on the channel. I even have a video about it, about Spaceballs and how I refuse to watch it because literally Disney Star Wars is a parody of Star Wars. And when I say parody, I use the term loosely because most parodies are actually funny, and this one's not funny for the most part. And I'm sure Spaceballs is good. I know it had the approval of George Lucas and all this great stuff, whatever. But like, I can't even bring myself to watch that. Like, I have to like drag myself to even watch. So that's why, for example, I made Ahsoka into a space opera, or I made the meme of Rey with the green milk. That's the only way I can get enjoyment from Star Wars now is by making fun of it. Because that's the only way I can actually feel something.
But modern Star Wars is a much more effective satire of Star Wars than Spaceballs ever was. The Rise of Skywalker is an objectively funnier film, unintentionally, but nevertheless objectively funnier film than Spaceballs. Like, modern Star Wars is a parody of itself. That's how you watch it. The only film I can't really do that with is The Last Jedi. There's not much funny in The Last Jedi. It's just depressing. But The Rise of Skywalker is at least just kind of, oh my god, how the fuck did Lando show up in the right place at the right time to shoot a stormtrooper in the eye with an arrow? What are you doing? Why does sinking sand not sink into the fucking hole underneath the sinking sand? That makes no sense. They fly now? Oh, they fly now. Just, oh, yeah, it's terrible, but quite funny. But The Last Jedi isn't. Because Spaceballs is trying to be funny, it's less funny than the thing that takes itself seriously.
Spaceballs is still great.
I love Spaceballs.
I'm sure it's good. I'm sure I'd watch it at some point, and people are already in the chat telling me that I need to watch it. Yes, I get it.
You got to watch it at least for this scene.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Sorry, spoilers.
The earlier question, though, is as to whether or not we'll see or whether we need to see another Star Wars film. I think we absolutely do. So that in the ideal world where Star Wars is actually fixable, I don't think really at this stage it is, but let's assume that it is. The way to fix it is in the cinema. So at the moment, Disney is spending... The Mandalorian's budget is something like $150 million a season. That's a ridiculous amount of money for declining viewership and a much smaller viewership at its height than any given feature film will do. The best way to look at it is, ideally, these Disney Plus Star Wars shows are the equivalent of tie-in novels in the better days of Star Wars. You can watch them for added color and added depth, but you don't need to see them in order to understand the main thing. Most people associate Star Wars with the cinematic experience. What we need to see is a great Star Wars film to rejuvenate life and love of that franchise. Once that happens, something like Andor, which is a legitimately good show, will become more popular because it will gain traction off of the success of the cinematic franchise. But the Disney Plus Star Wars shows will not breathe life into a dying franchise. They are largely responsible for killing it because it makes Star Wars a less special thing. It's no longer this event that we wait years and years and years to see. It's something that we have on our screens every week of the year, and they're all terrible. So ditch the shows, focus on films, make one good film, and you will undo the damage of years of Disney Plus Star Wars. I don't think they'll do that, but that is what they should be doing.
They're not going to do it because that would be smart.
Yeah.
Well, and that film cannot take place in the past. It has to take place in the future. It has to take place in a timeline that's past Rey Palpatine. It's farther in the future. It has to leave everything behind. It can't be all of the stuff that's taking place before, the OT, or stuff that's taking before the sequels or whatever. It doesn't. It all leads to Rey Palpatine. I'm sorry, nobody wants to see another movie that's connected with Rey Palpatine. Nobody wants to see it.
That was the biggest strategic mistake as well. The biggest mistake they made was having the sequels skip over this huge tract of really genuinely interesting galactic history, the whole post-Empire, early New Republic stage, which in the old expanded universe was really fascinating. There's some really great stories.
Yes.
And the way ideally you would do that, it's an opportunity to have Luke, Han, and Leia mentoring the next generation of people who will then take on the next set of stories, who then build the franchise going forward. The fact the sequel skipped over 30 years of the most interesting period in galactic history and thereby ensured that you can't go back to any of that without calling forward to this awful mess of a sequel trilogy is such a huge mistake. I don't understand why they did that. It made, except to avoid paying royalties to the writers of the old EU stuff, having that huge time jump has done immeasurable damage to this franchise. And I don't know if there is a way to skip that without going forward, as you say, hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Exactly. Yeah. You almost have to consider what's happening with the current Rey Palpatine. Now, this is the old Republic or whatever they want to call it. It's something that's in an ancient past. And then you can actually say, so dumb. In the Disney trilogy, how it's like all of a sudden Jedis are some kind of, mythical, legendary order of people.
Yeah, no one remembers them.
It's your lifetime.
Yep.
But wait, now everybody can be Force sensitive now. Don't you know? Anybody can be a Jedi. Before it was a special thing that you could get. Now it's like, well, if you try really, really hard,
Yeah, that works on a Wheaties box, but not in real life.
That's not how the Force works.
Exactly. That's the only line from the sequel trilogy that I use regularly. That's not how the Force works.
Because it's the only line that's actually accurate to the entire sequel trilogy.
No, I like
literally,
using
that
the they
one
fly
line-
now. That one's fun
Yes,
too.
but that's not how the Force works. That one line can be applied to the entire Disney trilogy of Star Wars. It really can.
On a One Piece side note, just found out that guy plays Zoro, Makenyu. That's what his name is. Yeah, he's coming to Tokyo Comic Con. Yay!
Ooh,
Awesome.
you might get to meet him.
Yeah, I
Lucky
might.
you.
Well, to be honest, though, during the Comic Cons, I'm stuck at the booth, and I don't see any of the Comic Con the whole time I'm there. Only
Well,
like the
that
first thing in the
sucks.
morning. Well, it's just part of the job. You get to your booth, and then this is how I am. I like to be the first one there and the last one to leave. So I get there, I clean up my area, and I just start drawing. Maybe have like 1 or 2 bathroom breaks the whole day, but I don't see any of the Comic Con. I actually quite enjoy, like, with all the cosplayers and people that come by, and there's a lot of fun stuff there. But it's good to see that the One Piece, the live action is it's not only popular abroad, but it's really popular here too as well. And it's good to see that the Japanese fans over here are are requesting for him to show up to the Comic Con. That's nice.
He plays a really good Zoro.
He does. Yeah. I'm still trying. I'm debating on which character I like the most. I really like Mihawk. Mihawk is just awesome.
Oh, Dracula Mihawk. You haven't even seen the last of him.
Oh,
You say you're not actually an anime watcher. Trust me.
No.
Yeah, that's not the last of him you'll see.
So I started picking up the anime. I started watching it now, so I could try to see what the differences and everything is, and then try to enjoy. I'm not as big into the anime at all. Like I'm watching it, and it's all right. It's fun and all, but I have so much more. I'm enjoying the live action.
Well, I know. To be fair,
yeah,
the anime is slow, like all old anime, like Dragon Ball.
yeah.
That's why I could never get into Dragon Balls, because it just took forever. But and I never understood the plot. But with One Piece, when I first watched it, it required a lot of patience, which I do tend to have. So, Pastor can tell you, I pretty much was oblivious to our entire engagement process because I was watching. No, it's literally happened because I was watching One Piece.
Well,
I was so enthralled in One Piece that I completely missed that I was about to be proposed to.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna have to bring up this story. But first, I want to say one thing for me. Well, for me, when it comes to One Piece, I tried watching the anime. It wasn't a fan, not because I didn't like the story, but because for me, this is a big thing with me with books, with movies, pacing. Pacing needs to be good for me. If it's not good pacing, I can't. I'm sure there are some great things that I'm missing where the payoffs are great and whatever. But for me, if the pacing's just not there, I can't stay invested. One Piece has a great story. And from everything that my wife has told me, from the Netflix show, from the anime, you can tell it has that good story. But in the anime, they drag it out a little. And because of that, I can't watch it, because it's like, this could have been one episode. This could have been whatever. Like, I don't need all that. That's why I like the Netflix version of it, because they didn't drag everything out. Like 2 episodes and they were done. Like, I like that because I get the information that I need and I move on. But if we're going to go into the story of why Raven was super oblivious, people have been asking for this story for ages, and I'm not even sure if we should tell it. Because
the ring wasn't big enough? Was that what it was?
Nah.
No.
Ring, actually, the ring he got was too big.
I don't know if we should tell the story, but long story short was that she was so invested in that kind of stuff, and because she didn't know it was a surprise proposal thing. She knew it was coming eventually, but not then. And long story short is, through a number of different. Again, we're not going to go into the story because it'll take way longer than we want to.
You could just give the summarized version.
No.
Give us the Netflix live action version.
Good segue there. But basically, to summarize, I was supposed to propose a couple months later than I did. Because it turned out that her parents wouldn't be able to make it for that, and I was already going to go visit. And I come home one day and my parents are smiling like really funny at me, and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, you know how you wanted to propose it, whatever? Like, well, her parents can't be there. And I'm like, okay, can we like come up with another time, whatever? Like, well, how do you feel about proposing next week? And I'm like, what? So, because I was already planning to go, and literally I had where within a week from that point, I had to propose, and it was supposed to be just we're going there to go on a date or whatever, and hang out for a bit, and then it became a whole thing where it was like, well, no, now we're gonna be I'm gonna be proposing, and I'm freaking out. My parents are freaking out. We're trying to get a ring. We're trying to get all this stuff together last minute, and I'm like, not trying to tell her because I don't want to tell her that, I don't want her to know, but I'm trying to
hint,
comfort myself with her. And
You're
she's
also
like,
trying to hint.
She's like, shh, not now. I'm watching anime. And I'm like,
That's literally what I said.
I'm literally running around and going crazy over here. And you're just like, nah, just sit and watch anime. And it's like that meme of the dog. This is fine, just sitting there freaking out. But it's a long story. The entire thing. I know people are going to demand it one day, but not now. But back to what I was saying, though. As I said, pacing for me is important. So I've read, if I read a book, for example, I like to read a lot. I actually have to. I'm very fast at reading. I actually have to limit my reading. Because if I read during the week, I have nothing left. We have the Sabbath. So a lot of reading then on the weekends. But when I, read the books and I read them ahead of time during the week, I have nothing left for the Sabbath. So when I read on the Sabbath, I usually have books because I saved them. But with me, I read fast, but also if I can tell very quickly if I'm not going to like a book. If I read a first couple pages, I can tell pretty much instantly whether the pacing is. And it might change, it might whatever, but for me, it needs to pull me in the first couple pages. I need to hear something interesting. I need to have it pull me in. And if it doesn't, it's just, I've had where once or twice I've gone back to books when I've had no other option and managed to be okay with them. But it's rare. So for me, pacing is the biggest thing. Honey, what would you say your biggest thing is about books and TV shows and movies?
The writing level and the author's ability to stick with their own continuity. Because there's this one author that we've read who I had to stop reading her stuff because she cannot stick to her own continuity. She keeps changing things in book after book after book, when in the first book she said it was this way, and then all of a sudden they have no idea that this happened.
Is this the same author who we tried to have come on our show and basically told us that because we associate with Nerdrotic or whatever that she refuses to come on because if that's our tribe,
yes,
it wouldn't fit well.
Yes.
Oh God.
And one of her stories, the one about the necromancer, I love.
Don't tell too much.
I just said it's about a necromancer. That can mean anything.
Yeah.
But I commented on a friend's post when he said, "What's your favorite fantasy novel?" And I said, "This story and I tagged the author. And a few days later, she said, "Thank you." She gets no interaction at all on her Twitter, at all. And all she does is promote her stuff.
No. She promotes her stuff. What stuff, you ask? Well, the books she writes under a pen name that are all LGBTQ plus romance.
Gay
erotica stuff. And we didn't know this until we didn't know this. We're reading her books and we're like, the books are great. And then we go on Twitter and I'm like, what is this garbage? What is this? I don't know. And those books get no attention. None. They get no attention. Her posts get no whatever, and
because they're not the books that people want to read. But the ones that the fifth book of one that we were waiting for, literally, I've decided not to get it because I know she's just going to spend half the book rehashing what happened in the last book.
Did you
literally
ask me
this? Well, I told you. You
what,
said
what if
probably
I
not.
what if I wanted the book?
Do you?
I don't know. You didn't ask.
Do you? I'm asking you now.
Too late.
Not really.
Exactly. Because we both know how
you.
the story. We both know how the story is going to end. Plus, it all could have been if she hadn't spent so much time rehashing what had happened in book 3. It could have ended in book 4.
Well,
So now we've got
have.
Necromancer, 4 books. I'm gonna.
It's not. No, it's a different story. The one the series I'm talking about is now about assassins.
She basically just told us off and said, like, no, I can't come on your stream. After stringing us along for months.
J.K. Rowling?
No. J.K. Rowling I respect.
That would be
Mary
cool,
Shelley?
but
Mary
I don't have
Shelley's
any
dead.
contacts.
How dare you?
And it's a go.
Look, I have contacts in DC. I have some contacts in Marvel. I do not have contacts with J.K. Rowling. So I do know someone. I do know someone who was an extra on Harry Potter. But
was it the little Platoon?
No, the person actually. You guys might have heard of him. Problem Being. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
He was an extra on Harry Potter. So at one point, I think a lot of people got mad at him on Twitter about it at one point because
people get mad at him for every
J.K. Rowling.
conceivable reason. The problem being is cancelled more often than almost anybody else I know.
Yeah, that's true.
You must not pay attention to my Twitter. I've had for the past 7 days angry Percy Jackson stands screaming at me because I dared to say, hey, your excuse for a race swap was stupid because the author's wife came out to defend a race swap in the show. Which again, you want to do a race swap? Do a race swap. Whatever. It's your stuff. But if you're going to do it, you need to acknowledge it. You can't just say, well, her whiteness in the books in 2002 was in her inherent whiteness because publishing was a white default, and so it doesn't matter to the No, just say we liked the actress who came in, and we realized, yeah, she's black. She's not the same person. Okay, but we really liked her energy, and we felt she captured the character well, so we decided to cast her. We know it's not the same in the book, but we really hope you give it a try because we'll be happy to see what we have for you here. That's all you had to do. So I called him out on that. And how dare I say that? How dare I say that? 7 days screaming about how it's so not important to the character. And I don't know if it's me, but after 3 days of 7 days of people screaming at me, telling me something's not important, I don't really believe that it's not important anymore. Because if you spent 7 days telling me how not important it is, you don't really convince me that. You just kind of...
Yeah, it's the lady protesting too much kind of dynamic going on there.
They were I kid you not, there were people like saying, follow your leader with a picture of Hitler, like shooting himself in the head.
Was it the Canadian Parliament you were talking to?
No,
that was before that.
But we're Orthodox Jewish. It says it in our descriptions. Like it's very easy to find out. And they're like doing this, and they're like the only people interested. And there's like a bunch of KKK people, and it's like this is literally an opinion over a race swap in a show. Are you okay? Do you need help?
Yes, they do.
And they got mad at me for taking a clip out of our stream and making it into its own video because I dared to show an image of the person who played the character, and that's bad because
you put the word dead over said actress, apparently.
Yes, with my face next to it with giant X's for eyes. I really don't think it's very hard to interpret that I'm not implying that she should die. Not at all. If there's my disembodied head next to it with X's over my eyes, I'm pretty sure you know who they want dead. You know?
You would think so, but these people are not smart. Smart and logic are the anathema to their very being, if you can call their very being actually being.
Master Chief was
being-
the enemy they've been waiting for all this time. What?
Yeah, Roman, we
No,
connect.
no. Don't use
But I cannot wait for the Marvels. I'm gonna have so much fun with that because
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna bring out my fan blaming bingo again. I love that thing. Little Platoon, have you seen that?
I have, yes.
The
Good.
fan blaming bingo? Yeah,
I have, yeah. No, it's very good.
Yeah, I can't wait to use that because I happen to know that people who don't like us shockingly don't like that either. Wow, I don't know. But
Really? What makes you say that?
I just made it for fun, and they got so angry. But it's funny because I actually have a copyright on it now, which is cool. So
Well, cool.
it was a random thing, but I can't wait to
But
use
it
that because
happened.
well, I'm not going to go see the Marvels. I just don't have a point. I will say one thing since we guess we're going on the topic of, and we talked about Riri Williams a little bit earlier. I did want to say I've been told that we're not getting the Riri Williams series for quite some time still because they want what they're doing is they're putting out Loki, right? And then they're going to put out the Marvels, right? And they're hoping it's kind of like a distraction thing. Here's a good thing that we know you like, and here's a thing that we know is not going to really do well. And we're going to throw them both out there at the same time so that you can, I guess, not notice the flaws of one of them. I don't know. I've been also told that they're waiting to see how the Marvel does, how it does in the theaters before they decide whether they're going to greenlight a second season of Ms. Marvel. But the Riri Williams show, Ironheart, is completely shot. It's done. It's completely finished. It's sitting on a shelf, all done. They're not releasing it because I've been told two things. I've been told one is that they aren't going to release it because it's a similar thing to Echo, where it's not good, and they know it's not good, and they really don't want to release it. But I've also been told at the same time that they're waiting to release it around Armor Wars, because they're making Armor Wars movie. How they're doing that without Tony Stark, considering the entire Armor Wars arc is literally about Tony and his armors, and you're going to make a Armor Wars movie without him? That's really weird, but whatever. But they're going to put that out, and they're going to put Ironheart out around the same time. Now, I guess I'll throw this out there. I know we only have 25 people watching, but I'm going to throw this out there on stream because I did it on Twitter and I did it on Instagram and nothing. I happen to know that there is footage out there of Ironheart that was shown at D23. It was a trailer for Ironheart. I know that this is true because I've seen footage of people at the event and being shown the thing, but they always pan down or they don't let us see it. I'm aware that there are copies of this Ironheart footage still out there. I'm aware that you can tell me all you want that nobody filmed it. They did. They did. I won't tell anybody who you are, but if you want to, my email is masteroftheTDS@gmail.com. If you want to send me that footage for me to accidentally put online, I'm open to that. So just throwing it out there. Anybody? Because I hate the character of Ironheart so much.
Master is a very big Iron Man fan.
He's my favorite character. I knew about him before we even had the MCU. They had Marvel Lego sets that they made later on, and I still used to play with I used to get those. But like when I was younger, I used to make my own Iron Man. Like I used to make my own. I got a gold visor and a red helmet, and I made my own because they didn't have them yet. So like that's how much I like Iron Man. I've read a lot of Iron Man, and I just hate Riri Williams because literally Tony hates her too, and they will tell you all the time, no, that's not true, but it is true. Ironheart is a thief. She stole Tony's technology, reverse engineered it on a dare, okay, and then stole from MIT to make her armor, and they just let her get away with it. That is her character.
Master found the panel in which Tony gives his exact thoughts about this girl.
Yes, he literally does. At one point, he says
he calls her a D word.
He calls her a D word because he's like, oh, some MIT student reverse engineered my armor on a dare and posted it online. And then it's like, oh, you mean Riri Williams, the MIT student?
Yep, that's who he's referring
they're like,
to.
Tony loves Ironheart. What are you talking about?
No, he does not. No one likes Ironheart.
But yeah, if anybody has the footage, I know it exists. You can't fool me. I know it exists. I know the audio exists for sure. Okay, I know that 100% confirmed. I know the audio exists, but I know the visuals exist too. I know it was out there. It's been put out there. If anybody wants to sneak it my way, I will not throw you under the bus. I just want to see it. And if there's anybody out there who wants to send me over the Ironheart, the shelved Ironheart, I doubt that you can. But if you want to send it my way, I won't watch it because I hate Ironheart. But
we will roast it.
No,
we will roast it and play bingo with it.
We'll get DMCA'd over it. Like I got DMCA'd this morning on Twitter for using I Need a Hero for 1 minute.
Oh yeah, for your 10,000 follower post.
Yeah, I got 10,000 followers. I was like, oh, cool. I'll make a little video. No. You're distributing our property unlawfully. How?
Oh, no. Even better, honey, was how your detractors tried to get you reported this morning.
Oh, my God. Are we going into that? Are we going to go into that? Oh, God. Did either of you see this morning?
Sorry.
No.
So my detractors are notorious for I've been told they take my posts, they screenshot them, and they have very lengthy conversations with me that are one-sided that I don't interact with because I have other things to do with my life and don't go snoop over their profiles and do that. But they couldn't report me. They've been trying to report me for ages. They finally found something. And they reported me, and I got sent a notification. I got sent an email from Twitter that somebody reported me for suicidal ideation this morning. They tagged one of my they reported one of my posts for thoughts of suicide. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? And that's all
the post. Can we show it? Can we show it?
I have to find it. Let me find it.
Oh my God!
Wait, they reported you for wanting to commit suicide.
Here. I'll show you guys in a minute. Let me just grab it. I just got to make it to a PDF quickly because it's easiest to put it on here. But I know we're close to. We're going to wrap up not too long, maybe about 15 more minutes or so, because we like to usually have it be going about an hour or so. Because if it gets
2 hours
longer,
usually.
No, 2 hours. I meant, but after that point, it usually gets a little too difficult. But yeah, here it is. I got sent this morning. I've never seen this before. It was so weird.
Wow.
Hello,
Yeah.
we're writing to you because a concerned individual has recently alerted us to potentially suicidal or self-harming comments posted on your account in difficult times. And when you need someone to talk to, it may help to speak to professionals who can assist you in coping with your current circumstance. If you're having thoughts of self-harm, suicide, or depression, we encourage you to please reach out to someone and request help. Our safety center has a list of resources you can consult for a variety of reasons. Blah, 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 blah. Please know that there are people out there who care about you and obsessively stalk your profile to get mad at you. I mean, care about you and that you're not alone.
Master is one of those professionals.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a
do you know what my
therapist.
job is?
It's so funny. I don't even know what they reported. Just even tell me what they reported. I don't even know what they reported.
I wish people would report on me.
Why? Why do you want people reporting on you?
Come on, that means you're big in the game. Come on, you take this as a trophy.
I would have taken the German, the one with the Germans are required to let you know that the German people requested to take down your account. That I would think was cool. This is not cool. This is just weird. It's like, if you're gonna get mad at me, look, hey, detractors out there, if you're gonna get mad at me, just send me an email. Okay? I'll make sure to give it the finest attention. It will go on the top of the stack of emails that I get that go straight into the junk mail, but it will be treated with privilege. It'll be the most privileged of my junk.
My detractors just tell me that my art sucks. Okay,
That's
thank
not true, though.
Well, it's their opinion. If they think so, well, okay, that's fine. But
Yeah,
it's
you have real talent.
have a great day.
They do not. The difference is, Jinja, you have talent. They do not.
And they don't try. They don't try to put your address out there and claim they didn't. When
if anybody had the initiative to fly all the way over to Japan, wow.
Which I doubt anyone does.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
It's a different situation for you guys.
But we're not going to get into that because that's what they want. They want us to talk about them, and I just don't really care. But I just think it was funny that it's like, okay, where did I post something that was even remotely like could be misconstrued as suicidal? Like I've never posted anything like that ever.
Absolutely nowhere.
Speaking of those kind of people, though, like that was a bit disturbing to see what was happening with Rippaverse.
I did see that.
Yeah, that guy's.
So
wow.
I've been trying to stay out of that. I will say that I can't really say much. We're not directly involved with the Rippaverse at all. I want to make that very clear. Okay. I have talked with Eric July about it somewhat because there was some crossover with something at one point that he did need to be made aware of, which was there was some crossover with our doxing and something else that happened. So not going to go into details about it, but I did speak with him about it. But this thing, what I think is annoying about it is what's funny is that you see there are two people. I'm not even going to give their names because I think they're so pointless. Everybody knows who they are and they're not worth the time to even really talk about. But they were like saying, oh, it's a joke. It's a joke, bro. It's a joke. Why are you getting mad over a joke, bro? It's like, oh, yeah. If someone came up to your front door or your business and taped things on your door, I'm sure you'd be fine with it, right? No, you wouldn't be.
No. Yeah.
It's private property. If you owned a McDonald's and they came over and did that, okay, fine, right? That's a public property, I guess. Like you know what I mean. This is a private property. To come onto private property, you have trespassed. Doesn't matter if it's for a prank or not. You trespassed. So that's the whole thing. But I think that stuff is wild. But one day I'm hoping. I don't think it'll ever happen. But I'm hoping for one day to get to actually talk with Eric Schleich. We share a lot of detractors. A lot of his detractors don't like me too. I don't have a comic company to go after, but whatever.
Well, like somebody was saying earlier, I think it was the Little Platoon. The Little Platoon was saying it. If that's happening, then you're doing something right. There you go.
Doesn't feel like it sometimes.
It really doesn't.
You know.
But regardless, it's a crazy world out there. You got to be careful, especially online. And we're not going anywhere. They're not going to get us to run away. We're not afraid of you. I do think you guys need to find hobbies, but that's just my opinion.
And help.
But let me, since we're about 10 minutes, let's go into. So I'm going to put you both on the spot, a Little Platoon and Jinja. I'm going to put you on the spot. How familiar are you both with the Jewish holiday of Sukkot?
I Sukkot to nothing about it. I don't know.
No, same. I did philosophy, religion, and ethics as my undergrad, and it does not ring a bell. So not at all, I'm afraid.
Okay, so if you're wondering...
In non-Jewish terms that you guys can understand, it is annual live in a hut week.
Have you ever gone somewhere and seen maybe certain times of year there's this structure outside of houses that are maybe wooden walls or canvas walls and they have leaves on top? You ever see that?
The origin of the kibbutz or something, is it?
Is this Jewish Burning Man?
No.
Jewish Burning Man.
I think that actually would be Lag BaOmer. That's when we light the bonfires.
Oh, okay.
But no, it's actually, funnily enough, if you look at, I'll actually, let me see if I can. I should have these all ready at the beginning. I'm lazy. This is why this stream is therapy and chills, is because we don't have anything set up ahead of time. But
It makes it easier that way.
Well, let me grab the thumbnail, because it will make sense if I show them the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Because the thumbnail for this, that's why this one's Pop Culture in a Hut. That was such a bad name for a stream. I should have done better.
Weren't you going to go with Help We're Trapped in a Hut?
Yeah, I thought about that, but I didn't want
it
people
up
to
with
actually take it
Jabba the
seriously.
Hutt some way. Jabba
No,
the
but look,
Hutt,
if
or-
you'll see in the background, you ever see a structure like that where it's got like these mats on the roof and it's got like canvas walls? Guys ever seen anything like that?
I've seen some like DIY kind of things. Yeah.
Well, that's why we're in a sukkah. That's what it's called. It's to symbolize basically when the Jewish people,
traveling through the nomading through the desert for 40 years.
Yeah, when the Jewish people were nomads after leaving Egypt in the desert for 40 years, they didn't have specific houses. They had what was called the sukkahs, and they had walls and like leaf covering and whatever. And so this holiday is meant to honor that. And one of the parts of it is that you can't actually eat. Well, I won't be able to. Raven will be able to, but I won't be able to eat anything that has any like meal outside of the sukkah. You have to eat in the sukkah.
There are also some families that adhere to sleeping in the sukkah.
I don't do that because I value my sleep too much.
And your life.
I value my sleep, and I'm sorry. It doesn't matter how many mattresses you put outside; it's still outside. And and I'm sure people camp all the time, and it's fine, and whatever. But not for me. But you basically go there and kind of
lame.
You go there and you're in the sukkah. You have meals. It's like the best example is it's like the Sabbath, but it continues. So, for example, that's one of the reasons why we're doing a stream now is because normally we do a video on Sundays. We do our Psycho-Synopsis, which is a summary of all the Psycho. Excuse me. But basically, we're not doing that now because we can't, because this Sunday is still going to be the holiday, and it's like the Sabbath.
Sunday after that is the same holiday that continued.
Well, it's a different holiday. It's called Shmini Atzeres. But
no, it's Simchas Torah on us.
Oh, sorry, not Shmini Atzeres. Yes, Simchas Torah. Sorry.
Shmini Atzeres is Shabbos.
Yes, that's so. I was right. I was partially right, but it's basically where you can't use technology. So it's the only way I can stay on Twitter and use it the way I do is because, well, first off, as a therapist, when I see some of the crazy people on Twitter, I just thank my lucky stars that I see people who just have OCD or something like that, because I'm like, okay, I'll take that over whoever the heck we're going to see today who's screaming about whatever. But also because at the end of the week, we go offline. That's why we've been offered a lot of opportunities. We've had opportunities to go on some pretty interesting streams, but we can't because they're Saturday night or during the day Saturday. And we can't do that. So normally we would make our video on Sundays, but we can't do that because it's going to be more of the kind of more an extension of the Sabbath, if you would. So that's why we're doing this stream. And that's why for next week, I believe as well, we're going to do one. And then the week after that, we're going to do one. Are we going to do one after that? Or is it just next week?
Don't remember.
I think there's one. We have a calendar for this kind of stuff, and I
don't remember what was on it. I feel like we missed a week. I think we missed a week on this calendar. I don't think that I don't remember us. No, wait. Yes, we did. For the first 2 weeks of October, we're streaming.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we are going to be streaming again. Maybe we'll try to get some other guests or whatever. Oh, we have 33 Legion B says with $5 super chat, happy Sukkot, good stream. Bye. Oh, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you, and have a good night.
And Roman says he's got to roll out. Thank you for a fun show all season. Yeah, we're going to wrap up pretty soon as well. But we just want to, we like to, at the end of this, at least explain somewhat about what's going on. So people on a channel. Again, we're not that big as some other people are.
Yes.
Yeah,
I know. You guys will get to my level one day.
But actually, since we're kind of going to be kind of closing things out soon, we will make one. I don't know if Kai's still in the chat. I saw him earlier. And I do apologize, guys. We got into a kind of interesting discussion, so we didn't get to some of the chat. We usually are a little more on top of it. But I do appreciate you all being here. But let's share this. So long story short, I had a sponsor. We got a sponsor because it's hard to find sponsors for us because we only eat kosher. So coffee brands, all that stuff, not happening. So we got a sponsor for Viter Energy, which was a caffeine mints. And I don't know what's going on with that. They still claim that I'm on the program, but they've disabled my account, and they said that they won't know if they'll get back to me in like a month or so. I don't know what's going on there. What I take away from it is that people who didn't like me decided to report me, and they decided not to stand with me, which I kind of think is weird, ridiculous. But go after my sponsors. Whatever was the only sponsor I had, not anymore. We now have a sponsor as of today. If you guys know of Kai MFS, that's what he goes by on Twitter and on YouTube. And Instagram. He is a writer and also an artist, and he has created a platform, store. Let me see if I think I have the slide for this. Yeah. There we go. We have a new sponsor, evillaboratory.com. So it's yes. Gothic Therapy, Evil Laboratory sounds appropriate.
It's just perfect.
But it's got some interesting merch just that Kai makes. There might actually be in the future where we're working with him on it. There might be some merch actually that's going to be customized to be based on us. So we have merch also coming out for us, but that's different. It's a different thing. But yeah, just throwing that out there. It's a cool store. If you're interested, just take a look. It's got some really interesting designs on there, and they got some interesting notebooks and stuff like that. So if you want to use the code Gothic Therapy, get 10% off. So just throwing that out there. Well, it's funny because last time, remember, I had that ad that I made. I made an ad for Viter Energy last time, and then it was the only time I used it, and then they kicked me out of the program. So you have to excuse me if we indulge just for a second. But all right, I think we're good.
Ads are always a devil's bargain. I had one. I do them occasionally. I try not to do them too often, but the amount of hyper caution that goes in place, especially with big brands when it comes to shedding their stuff,
isn't that big.
Then you might be lucky. But I've had a few where they said, okay, we want you to do an ad for X product, for example. And I'll do the ad, and it's kind of funny. And they say, be funny, be sarcastic, use your own humor and wit. And so I do that. And then they turn around and say, well, because, it's Pride Month, and you took that of furries, and we can't have that during Pride Month because furries and gay people are basically the same. And I replied and said, well, hang on a minute. I am nominally a part of this community, and I absolutely am not a fucking furry. So what are you saying? And they said, well, we just can't do it because we have to be really cautious. And say, well, then I'm not going to run your ad. That's pointless. Yeah. Don't tell me to be funny. Also, don't try and fucking co-opt the LGBT random bullshit while you're also demeaning it by extension of including furries in the community. Like furries, they exist to be mocked. What is the point of them?
I thought you said fairy. I was so confused.
No, they thought that at first as well. It's like, well, you called gay people fairies. Like, no, I said furries with a U. Furries is very different. But they said no, you can't do it because it's still LGBT. It's like, no, it's really not. But okay,
yeah, I could go into Fey lore. No, absolutely not. No.
Ask them how. When's the last time they had a Bud Light and how are they doing?
Yeah, that's a good way. But yeah, look, we're still small fry, I guess. I mean, I guess I have a following on Twitter, which I guess is cool.
It would be nice if some of them would come over here.
Yeah, it's like I have 10,000. It's like, can you come over to YouTube instead?
Please, we want more subs.
You have to walk all the way up.
It's all right.
We want more subs.
Okay, I haven't had to do this, and since the stream's almost over anyways.
But I'm not wrong.
Fat kitty.
Was that
I'm not wrong. Do it again.
No, I think the little platoon's confused.
What was that, the little platoon?
I said, is that a furry? But
No, it's a inside joke that became a thing. But literally this all those clips, like there's a bunch of clips from it. It's one episode. There's literally no others. It's only one episode of a random animation that we found, and I've been trying to get in touch with the person who made it to say like, hey, we've like made this an inside joke on the channel, and she ghosted me. So, but yeah, I think we're gonna wrap up because it's getting late, and we have to do some work tomorrow, and we have other things to do tonight.
Really? I thought we were both off work tomorrow.
No, we'll talk about it later.
Oh.
But talk about it now.
No, not on live. But we're gonna wrap up. But before we do, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. Thanks our guests, Jinja Ninja and Little Platoon. I'm gonna give them a chance to shout their stuff out and plug whatever they want to. But also thank the chat. Let's start with. All right. I hate this part. I'm not good at this. Okay, here we go. Let's start with we're gonna throw the Jinja Ninja under the bus. Here you go. You get to plug whatever you want to. You get to plug whatever you want.
Hello, everybody. The Jinja Ninja here. Thank you, Raven and TDS, for having me on today. I had a really good time. It was nice talking to you guys again since having this long, lengthy conversation after we met in person and back in the meetup. But just getting ready for the Comic Cons over here in Japan coming up. We got Okinawa Comic Con and Tokyo Comic Con both coming up in December, the first 2 weeks of December. So be on the lookout for some new. I'm going to be preparing some new merchandise and artwork for that. I'm always open for commissions. If you ever want to check out my stuff, I've got things on Instagram. You can see my work on Twitter as well. Instagram is more like a portfolio style setup, so that would be easier to look at things. And if you're interested, just give me a DM. I do live streams usually on Sunday. I've been kind of on a hiatus here as of late, but I'm looking to pick things back up again. So if you want to check out my YouTube channel, the Jinja Ninja, that's where you can find me as well. Thanks again for having me, and it was good to meet you. I'm forgetting the name. So the Little Platoon. Sorry, I was about to call you the Little Prophet.
I'm just going.
That's another channel that he does. I know he has already a second channel, but still, just throw the idea.
Again. Yeah.
And let's we'll give you an opportunity as well, Little Platoon, and happy birthday to you as well again.
Oh, well, no, thank you so much. That's very kind, and thank you for having me on. I will be on Open Bar tomorrow. I will be on EFAP on Saturday. I think I have a video going out on Saturday as well. A casual 4.5 hour video on Saturday.
Wow.
Casual?
God. Just a casual, short little 4.5 hour video. And I think I'll be back on Monday with the live show I do with the movie cynic called The Best Show in the Universe. Probably, I think that's back on Monday, I think. But no, thank you so much for having me on. It was really lovely to be here. Lovely to meet all of you. Lovely to meet people in the chat as well. And thanks again.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it, especially since we don't live stream often. It's just this period where the high holidays come up, so we usually just do our one video on Sundays and kind of call it a day.
And then sometimes we'll clip out something from said video and post that on Monday. Instead, Master does stream highlights for the holidays.
I'll totally be doing some. So tomorrow, if you get tagged and stuff and bothers you, just ignore it. Especially, I'm gonna try not to cut out anything that mentions Percy Jackson, because the last time I did that, I thought they were finished. They were not.
I didn't realize it had such a vociferous fan base. I remember reading one of them way back in the day and thought that was okay. But
yeah, I was surprised too. But I
used to be in the Percy Jackson fan base avidly. I am not one of these people because I know Annabeth is white.
It's not even that. It was just that I posted a stream highlight 4 minutes, and it was just reading some of their disgusting comments, right? within seconds of me posting it. How dare you? She's 13. And it's like, what's happening? I thought you were gone. Where'd you go? You're suddenly back. Okay. But all right, guys, we're going to wrap up now. Thanks everybody for coming. I know we weren't on top of the chat as much, but stay tuned for some stream highlights tomorrow. The stream will be up on the channel later. And we will be back next week. We'll see maybe if we can scrounge up some other guests, or we'll see what we pull off with the time. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming. We're gonna do the outro now, and then we'll see you guys again soon.
Indeed. So, this was fun.
All right, bye everybody.
You didn't thank Kitty nearly enough.
Well, because you behaved well, I guess.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. On that note, let's go.
Outro.